Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel and today I'm going to be talking about um, eviction support, what you can expect as a U.S. citizen, and 7 things that you need to know. So in our country, as we know, there are tons of headlines about the housing crisis going on, and many of you may be familiar with that, and many of you may be worried about that. You know, you have your job and you have your finances and you're looking at inflation and you're wondering, what would happen if I happen to get, to be in the situation of facing eviction. And so you may be wondering what you're, as a U.S. citizen, what can my country do for me, And so what I found out is that according to COVID-19 census.gov, they're actually tracking now evictions and in 10 states and 34 cities. So in the last 12 months, there have been over 1,068,500 evictions filed in the United States of America. And that's only in 10 states and 34 cities. That is not including California. It is not including what we'll be talking about today is in San Diego, California. So, because that's the city where I am. And so, so many people are facing the possibility of losing a job or, may have lost a job and have struggled to get a job again. And so, the million people in just 10 states before me, I started looking into what would happen if I, was to face eviction. And so, just a little bit about me, I actually finished my master's program in August of 2023. And so I set out in September to look for a new job with my master's degree. And, here we are in March and I still have not gotten a job, and this was like completely surprising to me. And I'll tell you, I have I have paid for recruiters, I've paid for, resume writers, I've paid for consultants, I've gone to the EDD, career center support. I have done like so many things. And one of the things I decided to look into in, I believe in November, is when I started looking into this because, of course I had some savings, a little bit of savings, and I had some credit cards, and honestly didn't expect to be out of work for this long. Of course, I trust in my situation that, God is in control. And so, everything works out for a purpose. And I believe that, letting you guys know, letting people know what to expect is part of that, purpose. I feel like, it is such a difficult thing to navigate, and it's so scary and it's so stressful. You may have children, you may have a wife or husband that you are, who are relying on your income that you need to support. And so you may want to know some of this information. And so, yeah, so 7 months later, I still don't have a job, and I'm also facing eviction. There was actually 82,800 people just last month that were filed eviction against. So that landlords had filed eviction against, against people. So after all this time, looking into it, one of the things I started to look into is how does, what kind of support is there in the county, in the state, because if you're a U.S. citizen, you understand, or you may not understand that, there is not one set system for how the money is allocated between states. So there's not one federal system that you can go to. So in my situation, it's going to be different than yours if you're in a different city or a different state, but at least this gives you kind of like an outline and kind of like gives you a temperature and a volume of what to expect, how to prepare, and kind of give you an idea of what, currently in our current environment, what the country, what politicians and state legislatures are really willing to do to help this housing crisis, because I also think it's important that those of you who may know people and obviously be involved in your, politics, as far as like talking to your politicians and talking to your lawmakers, because I think this is going to be a much bigger problem if it's not addressed, as well as I hope to show that, to encourage you to, if you have nonprofits that you're involved in, or if you're involved in a church community of any kind, to encourage your communities to help carry the burden of what we're looking at with this housing eviction crisis. Now, first of all, if you were to go, so let's talk about what it looks like, how to even get involved. And so depending on where you are, there's probably like a general state like welfare type program where in California would be called Cal Benefits. And so you kind of go into Cal Benefits and you just apply and you provide your income, you provide your your household, how many people are in your household, how many people are providing for you, how many people you're providing for, as well as you're going to provide your work information, where you're working. So if you apply for Cal Benefits and you get approved, then if you're not working, you can apply for Cal Works. And so that would be the program that refers you to the eviction prevention, housing program that is funded by the county or the state, which, is each county is in charge of, funding and how they allocate those funds, because there's not one set way to go about it. So if you're in another state, looking into, first of all, applying for your state benefits program will refer you probably to, whatever program that they have to help you get back to work. They usually have some training available in that, and they do some supplementation of income for employers to lower your risk of being hired. So you should technically be able to get hired sooner. In the state of California, for example, at least in San Diego County, if you were to take one of these jobs, they're typically only like at least 6 months. So by the end of 6 months, hopefully you either continue working there or you have something else lined up. So moving on. So this is the first thing you need to know, of course, is that once you're in Cal Benefits and you get into the Cal Works program, if you're in your own state, of course, it's going to look slightly different, but at least that kind of gives you a vibe what to look for. Then you get referred to the county, housing prevention program. So the second thing you need to know, in as far as what is available for U.S. citizens in the eviction support, as far as eviction support, is the current status in March of 2024 for eviction support has changed dramatically because of COVID. So during COVID, something that you'll find is that you really need to understand that because of COVID, like prior to COVID, the system was already in place. But during COVID, there were a ton of, provisions that were made. A lot of things were allowed to, there was a lot more support to prevent evictions. Okay, and many of us are familiar with that. But what does that mean now that those protections are now gone and many of them are lifted? That means that in March of 2024, if you're looking at facing eviction, things could be a lot more difficult for you. Not just because because of COVID, during COVID. Yes, it was much easier in COVID, but even probably prior to COVID, it is more difficult now to receive support despite inflation, despite these different challenges that we're facing. Potentially, like, I know that many of you do feel like the jobs numbers are good and things like that, and you believe that there are lots of jobs, but there are like millions upon millions of people, and I actually had numbers on this, but I don't have them in front of me, but there are millions upon millions of people who would like to have a job right now and are unable to get a job. Now, that might not seem like a big deal if you look at the numbers, and they tend to go back and edit those numbers, so they show them as being low, low job numbers, but they are higher than it seems. And when you look at like, okay, like 3%, 5%, 4%, they throw these low numbers and say, oh, it's like, it's not 7%, it's not 11%, it's been 11% before. But when you look at how many people that is, when you're looking at the overall, the whole country, 7%, 11%, even 4%. If these numbers are accurate, which I'm not going to get into right now, I do not believe they're accurate. I do not believe they're an accurate reflection of the job market, period. I just don't. But, so like, just go on LinkedIn. You apply for a job and it's been posted for 8 hours and there's 200 applicants. Don't tell me that that's like not a reflection of like low job numbers. Like, who can, if there's 200 applicants, like, who's even able to look at 200 applicants? Like, we're in a transition phase in our country, in the world, with AI and things like that. These things are transitioning our country, and things are looking a lot more different than they have in the past. So those are all impacting our current climate right now. And I think that without that kind of context, you could be like very misled as to what kind of support you're going to be able to get in 2024. Okay. So the third thing you need to know is, what are the requirements for the eviction prevention support program, like in San Diego County? So of course, because I'm one of those people who are currently, concerned about facing eviction, and I'd like to get some eviction support, prevention support, then I went into a little bit of a deep dive of what support is available for a U.S. citizen, right? We always hear lots of things about how there's supports for other people from other countries. And I was just curious, like, I want to know. And many of you are probably very curious and also concerned about what supports are available, because there are so many supports available to people who are not even citizens. That's not dissing them. I think that we should support people, but I wonder, again, within the context as a citizen, what do we have available? So if you want to be qualified for the eviction prevention support in your state, or in your county, in the state, in the city, in the county of San Diego, you must be 2 months past due rent, and no more and no less. So if you have not hit your 2 months yet, you will not qualify. They will immediately come back later. If you are past 3 months, so if you hit your 2 months and then you pass 3 months past due rent, you will automatically be disqualified, okay, for this program. And you must have an eviction notice. Like, you won't even qualify if your landlord isn't evicting you. Now, if they can, I don't know, like, if so I don't know if your landlord will try to evict you after 2 months, but if you are 3 months past due and your landlord wants to possibly evict you, and they've provided a eviction notice for you, a 3-day pay or quit notice, then you can apply for this program. And so in addition to that, You also need to know that you must be currently working in the current conditions of the current 2024 environment for qualifying for the eviction prevention support. You have to be already working in order to get support. Mind you, that in order to qualify to be referred into this program, you have to go through CalWorks, meaning that you don't have currently a job. But in addition to that, not only must you have a job already, you also must be able to prove that you can pay your rent based on that income, based on your total gross income. You have to be able to show that you can pay for your rent because they want to show that you can pay for it in an ongoing manner. Now, that seems like a reasonable request, but is it really that reasonable if you're in this program because you currently cannot afford your rent? Like, maybe you already are working and you can do that, but if you're like, who's applying for this program who, already has a job and can afford the rent? Like, I don't know. That's just a question. That's a thought. I leave it with you guys. But so that is, so you must be able to show proof that you can afford your rent based on your income. And you'll have to show that. In addition, now they never tell you like how much they're going to give you. They're always going to say, okay, that, once you provide all this information, mind you, I have not actually received any money from the county. I just like looked into it at this point. But what they say is like, if you're facing eviction, they won't tell you like, oh yeah, we'll definitely give you that full amount. Will you give me like the full amount, the full 2 months? Oh, we don't know. It'll be determined later. That's kind of the runaround they give you. And so one of the case managers I spoke to let me know, and now this isn't confirmed, but they kind of let me know that if it's over $2,000, you could be disqualified from the program. Now, I live in San Diego, California, and the median house range in California is, I believe, like the median rent range for California is like $2,995, I believe. Yeah. So if and that's going to be like where the average rent for a studio or a room to rent is like $2,000 typically. It's around $2,000, maybe a little bit less, but not much. And that's why it's like average of like $2,900. So mostly you're not going to be able to find something, whose rent is less than $2,000 out here. Like, I want to know, like, so if that's like the cap that you can even apply for the program now, that just makes me wonder, like, you would have to go a little bit deeper into figuring out what, like, you'd have to actually go down that road and actually see what they actually give you at the end of the day. I haven't been that far down the road, but that's just what I was told, because they were like, oh, if it's more than $2,000, they won't pay for it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, would I get, would they give me at least $2,000? They were like, no, they'll just like, you just won't qualify. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So hopefully, I mean, like I said, I haven't gone that far down that rabbit trail, but hopefully that wouldn't be something that you would end up facing. But it's something to keep in mind, okay? Because it's possible that there may be a cap. And of course, that's just San Diego. Keep in mind, this is just for you to plan if you're concerned about that. You might be facing eviction and what's possible, okay? And currently in San Diego, California, they're not covering utilities. They used to cover utilities. Like if it said on your thing that you were missing this amount of utilities, you have to come current with your utilities as well. They're not covering that anymore. You're gonna have to get that from somewhere else or pay for it or whatever to prevent your eviction. So the fourth thing that I think that you need to know if you are currently facing eviction or potentially or concerned about, or your mama is, or you're like you have a kid who might be, who's like a 20 something, right? You never know, like, you have somebody who you love and you care about. And so here's number 4, obstacles you might face if you are facing eviction. And in order obstacles you might face in getting the eviction prevention support. Okay. So again, in order to qualify, you must already have a job. And your total income must cover your rent. So you have to prove that your current, in order to get the funds at all to pay for the 2 months that they'll allow you to pay, they'll allow you to have back rent. And so you need to keep that in mind, because timing is very, very, very critical with this. If, you need to be able to make sure that you're able to get a job within that 2-month time frame. And if you pass that 2-month time frame and go into the 3rd month and you don't have a job yet, you will be disqualified from having access to the program, because they only cover you if it's 2 months. And they won't even pay like the 2 months. Like I asked, like, will you just cover the 2 months? No, you're completely disqualified from the program. You have to pay it down. And then once you pay it down, then you can try to reply again. Okay. So that's an issue that you may need to face, an obstacle that may prevent you from getting support. Another obstacle is that CalWorks is slow. This may be different in your state. I hope it is. But in our state, in California, so like, the turnaround time for this, like, again, keeping in mind the 2-month time frame that's required. When I applied for the Cal Benefits program and CalWorks program, it was in November. And at that time, honestly, I did not think I would still be even like looking for a job in March. By far, no way. And so at that time, I was just casting my net as far as many places as I can. And I believe that if you're looking for a job, you need to cast your net. You need to network, and you need to like be part of as many programs as you can, go to job fairs, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill, And so one of the things I thought, well, like, let me get in the CalWorks program, because then they can like job place you, just in case if it comes down to that, then I could do that. That'd be great. Right. So I think I did that in November, and I did not even get I didn't even get a appointment with my case manager until February. Okay. That's November, December, January, February. You need to keep in mind the time frame, because right there you're disqualified if you're already behind on your rent. Like, I don't know how you got to manage that, because you only can be 2 months behind on rent. And it takes them 4 months to even get you in the program, to be part of the program, to be part of the job program, right? Where you can get help with a job. So, so now, let's say in March, 1 month later, like, they just contacted me from the specific program that could possibly help me get a job, like, quickly, like, they could like help, they subsidize the employer's salaries so that for the 6-month period you have that time. So, like, you might have a chance to get a job faster, So I still don't have a job. I applied in November and I don't have a job. Like, now keep in mind, I believe personally, like I said, I think I've said this already, but I believe that God is working all these together for good. There's a reason why I don't have a job right now. And so I'm sure that each one of you need to know that, God is in control. And so, everything's working together for your good. So just trust him in that. But, you never know what God is doing in these situations. But again, so that timeline, that turnaround time for support is not it. It's not good. So you'll be like 4 months behind on rent if you're hoping to get a job through CalWorks. Potentially. I'm not saying that's all the time. That was my experience. It's something you need to keep in mind if you're potentially facing eviction, okay? Also, I'll get to that because pets are a thing. So Another thing you need to keep in mind, that another obstacle that you may face in getting eviction prevention support, and so what I mean by that, if I haven't clarified that already, is like they'll pay back what is owed up to current, okay? And that's only 2 months. I said that. So once you get a job, your earning capability could end up becoming a problem. So there's two sides to this, okay? One side is that minimum wage in California is $16. Like, so in San Diego, it's a little higher, but like, say you're in San Diego County and you live in Poway, for example, their minimum wage is only $16. I think it's like $16.85 in the city of San Diego or something like that. But anyway, like, if you're in, say, San Diego, your minimum wage is $16 an hour, and if you're struggling to get a job, you might have to take a minimum wage job. And also you may not have the experience or whatever that, or the degree or the qualifications, certifications, depending on your circumstance, minimum wage may be all that you can take. And also in one of the programs, they only offer part-time work in CalWorks, only offer part-time work at minimum wage, period. The other one is like offers more full-time opportunities, but it's not so guaranteed. Okay, and the pay is different. It varies. Okay, so this is a potential challenge, okay, for you. So if you are making minimum wage, your maximum earning wage potential for each month is only $2,773. Okay, and if you're in San Diego like I am, the minimum rent amount, the median rent, so that's like the midpoint, the very midpoint, it goes up and down from there, is $2,995. So, but that's not counting what the current rate is. Now, if you were to go Google online and you go on, Realtor, or you go on, Hot Pads, or you go on whatever you look for like looking for a place to rent, you're not going to find anything in San Diego for that. I promise you that. Maybe you could get a room to rent for like $2,000. Maybe you could get a studio. Maybe you can get it for like $1,800. Okay, maybe you can get a place for $1,800 in San Diego somewhere, San Diego County, who knows where. But first of all, that doesn't really exist. That's not real. I'm just being honest with you. Your rent's going to be looking at like closer to $3,000. Tough to find. $2,500 probably you'll be getting like maybe one bedroom, something. But most places are averaging like closer to $3,000 in San Diego right now. If you were to go into a new place, okay? But if you've been in your place for a while, if you are able to save this is a very critical, because if you are able to save if a person is able to save their place where they're currently living, right? Then you would be able to stay at that current rent, even if they raise your rent, and actually I think they recently just changed this, but at least for the last 10 years, like me, I've lived without having any issues with my rent. I've never paid my rent late or anything like that for the last 9 years. Up to this year is the first time I've ever paid my rent late. And so, I've never given them any issues until now, and I'm like completely surprised by it. But so, for example, in my situation, there have been rent increase caps over the last 10 years. So I'm kind of grandfathered in. So it is extremely valuable for me to stay where I am. Not only does my landlord want me to stay here, but I want to stay here because going into a new place is going to significantly raise my rent. Probably up to, $1,000 or more. I'll be paying like $1,000 a month more, and I currently cannot afford the rent that I have. And that doesn't make sense to me, So, there should be a little bit more focus, in my opinion, on preventing people from losing their current place because, it's where they want to live, and it's where, they could be grandfathered in at a lower rate, for rent. Now, as soon as you go into a new place, that goes out of the window and you're paying current rental prices, which are extremely high right now. But if you've been grandfathered in, like I said, it's like, oh, you can only raise 10%. Even if they raise you 10%, it raises exponentially. It's terrible. Don't get me wrong. But, having to go out of that into a new place, significant, right? So what I'm saying here is that it could be difficult for you to prove that you can afford this rent, right? It could be difficult for you to show that you can, to prove that you can afford your rent because of the cost of your rent and your earning potential, So you need to kind of look at that, if you have $16 an hour, multiply that by 2080. That'll give you the amount of money you can earn per year. Okay, and then you divide that by 12. That shows you exactly, about how much money you would make, and that was 2773, 0.33333, per month, right? So if your rent is $29.95, which is probably pretty accurate for like what you would be moving into, maybe anywhere around there, 29 to 33, something like that. If you can't show you can prove that, you can, minimum wage isn't really going to cut it. So you will not qualify for the program, is what I'm saying. If you can't show that you can make that amount of money, you won't qualify, period. They won't take it. They won't accept it. Like, you'll be disqualified from the program. They won't pay for part of it. They won't pay for the 2773. They won't pay that. They'll only pay all of it or nothing. Okay, that's how the program works. So, like I said, it could be hard for you to earn enough money. The other side of that, the flip side of that, is that if you get a great job, and you're like, okay, thank you, I got this great job, now I'm moving forward, you could be pushed out of the income threshold for the overall Cal Benefits program. So typically that's low. That's a pretty low range, depending on the amount of dependents that you have. Your income ratio that you're allowed to have, could range from, a couple of $1,000 to below that. I don't want to give any specific numbers because every person's situation is difficult, but I believe that mine is like the income ratio threshold that I can't make more than, I think, $1,800 or something like that, which is crazy. Like, I'll be kicked out of the program as soon as, I feel like anybody's going to get kicked out of the program as soon as they get, as soon as they get a job, right? So the thing I want you to know about that is that if you get a job and you're concerned about getting kicked out of the program completely, you need to apply immediately, because this process takes a while, first of all, and it's possible that you could possibly, get it approved. That's what I understand, is that you could possibly get it approved within the window before they shut your benefits off. And, from getting the job to the point where they cut off your benefits, you may be able to get, you may be able to get some support for that prevention, but yeah, you need to keep in mind the time frame, right? You need to keep that in mind. So that's really critical. So another thing that you'll need to know is that you could be denied for this program based on the professionalism of your offer letter. And I want to say you get denied all the way, you don't get denied all the way. But so if you don't have like a fancy, if you're say you're working for a small company, you need to make sure that offer letter has a letterhead on it and it looks legit, because, if you have a nice letterhead and it looks very professional, you could get pushed through. But if it doesn't have that, they may make you wait to get that, to get the support, the financial support. They may make you wait until you can provide a paycheck and show proof that you can afford it. So again, that's just taking even more time. And, you know, if you're worried about getting kicked out of the child benefits program in general, that could become a problem for you. So make sure that your employer provides you a very nice, professional offer letter, okay? All right. So, point number 5 that you need to know if you are concerned about, you know, facing eviction, and you need to know what support is available. Point number 5 is this. If you don't qualify for the program, they will refer you to an outside program, right? Nonprofits, they'll say, okay, you know, sorry, you didn't apply, no worries, you know, we can apply, we can offer you, you know, you can go to a nonprofit organization. And in San Diego County, they offered me they referred me to 2 nonprofit organizations. One of them is called Interfaith, and that is a nonprofit organization that is specifically catering to people with drug and alcohol rehabilitation. So if you're in that program, you need to be referred into that program, and that could help you with getting support through the program, through that program. If that doesn't qualify for you and you're not in that program, then what applies to you is there is one nonprofit organization in all of San Diego County, and it's called Brother Bennos, that is literally carrying the burden for the entire county in like one of the most expensive cities to live in. And I'm not even gonna get started on their low income housing projects that they're doing that all cost like so much money. And it's just their low income housing projects that just really raise the rent. They raise the rent everywhere. There's more houses, and those houses go for more apartments, and those apartments go for higher costs. They're higher than they're the highest priced apartments you're gonna get anywhere. Like, that's a side story. Do your own research, look into that. But for example, in our city, out of all of the things that are going on in our city, there's only one nonprofit that is signed up for supporting all of the housing crisis and eviction crisis if San Diego County doesn't cover it. And I'm telling you, it doesn't seem like they want to support it. Like, I'm just saying, they don't seem to want to create a pathway that you can actually get through. I'm just saying, I'm trying to gently say that, but I'm going to say it now, because when I went to Brother Bennos, like, this makes me teary, because this is like a very small nonprofit organization, and they just happen to say yes because they want to support. It's Brother Bennos, and they're like founded in 1983, and they basically support homeless and working poor and seniors. And so, I mean, it's just like, I was like so blown away. Like, I'm like, how can I support this organization? Like, can I volunteer? Like, you know, sign me up for the volunteer program, because basically it's like a little like homeless place where they provide breakfast, and like they have like little outdoor showers situation. They provide some, you know, hygiene materials. They provide like food boxes, things like that. I mean, it's like, I was like super like, oh, there was somebody giving like a haircut. Like, so there must be like, you know, people who come by and support and like give people haircuts, like homeless people haircuts, or low-income people, whatever. It was like a very chill vibe. I was like very like impressed by this, like the peace that was on that place. And you know, and you're talking about people who, you know, when you're talking about poor people that need support with like housing prevention, you're talking about people that will really struggle navigating this. This is why I wanted to make this big video, because I know my mom, she was poor, but she also really struggled, you know, like she didn't qualify like as any disability or anything, but you know, she really struggled with trying to navigate life, you know. And so when you're dealing with people who are struggling with navigating life, like, I don't know, they want to bring dignity to poor people, and I could feel that. Like, I felt that when I walked in there. I was like, wow, like, but this little place, like, guys, this is not okay. Like, this little place can only afford to be open from Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 11 a.m. And on Saturdays from 10 to 12. You know, if you're looking to go there, go for it. But like, seriously, like, they can't even stay open that long. Like, how are they the ones that are supporting all of San Diego County's like eviction support? Okay. It's crazy to me. Like, you know, everybody's getting referred there because who can pass these qualifications, period. Like, you know, I'm telling you in advance so that you have a shot, because like, who can pass this? Who can qualify? You know, they want you to go down this other path. So they just kind of pass you along to this little Brother Bennos who's barely open, you know, just because they said yes to helping. And so I think what I'm saying with this is like, you know, this can't go on like this. We need to be talking to our politicians, our lawmakers in your city or state. Like, we can't just put it on like one little nonprofit organization. And if you're part of a church group, like I said, you know, find out, you know, encourage your leaders. You know, your leaders should be relying on the Lord to provide for their needs. So, you know, encourage your leaders to say yes to supporting, you know, if they don't want to go if they don't want to go through like supporting the county specifically directly, you know, at least like find out how your organization can say yes to being somebody to be referred to, you know, like, you know, being available is what I think. Like, out of all the churches in San Diego County, there's only one place that's saying yes to helping this problem. And I feel like you can ask, you know, and this is for every single city, you know, everywhere. I'm sure that there are different nonprofits supporting different cities, different counties, different states. But it's going to be something similar to this. So, you know, wherever you are, whoever you are, wherever you are, in whatever city or state you're in, you need to talk to your politicians and not, you know, maybe not talk to them however you want to. I'm really not. This is my first time really realizing that this is an issue. So I haven't done any deep dive on that yet. But like, if you know about how to do all that, like, go for it. If you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows how to like get involved in that, like, this has got to change, okay? And your churches, all your churches, your nonprofit organizations, like, people are going to be needing help unless there's a big turnaround. And we're really in a transition stage. I'm not even going to get into that. Because I could go, you know, we could talk about that all day. But our country, we don't really know what the next 10 years are going to look like, because things are changing very, very, very rapidly. Many of you know, with AI. And so what jobs are available are going to change. What types of jobs are available is going to change. And inflation's crazy. Okay, inflation's crazy. Housing market's crazy. I think I don't know, some of the people in our city are, you know, it's like a point of pride that our housing, you know, your property value goes up and up and up and up. That's great if you own a house, but if you don't own a house, that just means your housing cost goes up and up and up and up and up. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not great news for me, but in San Diego, that's probably not changing. But in some markets, you know, things have kind of taken a turn and they've gone downhill, which is good news for you if you're facing eviction. If you own your house, sorry, out of luck for you. But, you know, for us who don't own houses, we're kind of glad. Just saying. Okay, so the other thing I wanted you to know about, like, Brother Bennos is that this little nonprofit organization, they receive funding, a limited amount of funding every month at the beginning of the month, and it's a first come first serve basis, right? So you have to show up at like 6:30, and then typically they're not able to afford like large amounts of money. So if you like kind of did this process and now you're 2 months behind on rent, they may not be able to provide you that full 2 months of rent. Typically they're able to support like in more quantity, like things like utilities and things like that, and maybe some like eviction prevention support funds. But And like I said, like the restrictions are a little bit less, but like the amount that they can give you is probably going to be less as well. So yeah, so point number 6. I'm not putting captions on there for you guys. So if you're trying to look for it, point number 6. Okay. So what happens if you're unable to receive funding on time? Well, in the state of California, and I'm telling you this is crazy, but I think it's what they really want you to do. Like they're not creating a nice smooth pathway for you to get support to make sure you don't lose your house, your current rental unit where you're currently living and you feel safe and comfortable and you have a long history there. No, they're not trying to support you with that particularly. They really want you to go into temporary housing. What's temporary housing? Temporary housing is this. The county and the states, I believe across America, have made these contracts. They've made these deals, but I know for a fact here in San Diego, but I've seen it in other states when I've gone to visit, even just recently. And what this looks like is that the county has made these deals, these contracts with these, these low-income motels. Many of them are names that you'll recognize. I'm not going to say any names on here, but they're low cost motels, and essentially they make these deals with them, and they're basically hotels where they're maybe out of the way and they don't fill up as quickly. So, this is a profit making situation that for some reason our government is involved in, and it's reminding me a lot of, and I'm not getting into this, but it's reminding me a lot of the prison system and how that's privately funded and all the problems that have come out of that. So what the temporary housing is basically you get 16 days. So if they don't help you with your housing and you happen to actually get evicted, then you get 16 days paid for in a motel. And if you don't get a new place, you can ask for an extension. And if they give you an extension, you can only have extensions up to 60 days if they approve it. So your maximum time that you're going to be allotted in a temporary housing unit, which is a hotel, that is not going to be, you don't get your all like expense choice of hotels. You're going to be like somewhere. Okay. I actually went and toured several of them out here in San Diego because I went to one out of state as well. I also visited one out of state. And I will say that the quality varies from hotel to hotel. And in the worst case scenario, I didn't see this in San Diego County, but outside of San Diego County, worst case scenario, I mean, one of the places I looked at was like smelled like drugs. I'm just saying, like it was like the guy at the front desk smelled like weed, straight up. Like, and I was just like, wow. I mean, and I'm talking about when I walked by, the units, there was like clearly children living there. I mean, and the people were like on, like you could tell, like, who in the morning at like 8 a.m. in the morning is deep cleaning their window sills of their hotel. Like probably, I mean, this was a not good situation. I will say I didn't notice any of those things in the ones that I visited here in San Diego. I think I visited about five or six hotels total to just get a vibe, and they vary. One of the things that you need to know about these hotels is, besides the length of stay, and I think that it might vary from city to city, county to county, state to state, based on the laws, around the length of stay that you can be there may have that impact. But while you're there, for example, in San Diego, some of the things that I noticed, that some places do not allow guests, and I'm not sure if it's 100% across the board, but I know for a fact that some of them do not allow guests. And if you're caught with guests, you will get immediate eviction, and it will end your term. It will terminate your contract with them, and it will be without a refund. So that's pretty severe, in my opinion, for 60 days. You cannot have anybody else in your hotel at all. Some places offer pets, some no pets, some need a deposit. Yeah. So I think the thing that makes me invite you all to do a lot more research on this, because when I zoom out at this and I look at how, the government, the county is not really trying to provide support for citizens to stay in their housing. It's kind of like they're tracking you. They're kind of like guiding you that the way forward is to go into these temporary housing units, which, I mean, seems corrupt to me. First off, do your own research, please, because when I zoom out and I look at what we've been seeing in the news a lot, the headlines a lot lately, we see this huge issue with, like, what is going on with these, like, refugees and, these illegal immigrants who are coming around being shuffled from hotel to hotel to hotel. Well, it kind of makes me think that this is just the way our government is dealing with this. This is how they want to deal with this. This isn't a one-time situation. This is why it's coming out on the news. And my thought is that this is probably happening to U.S. citizens too. It's just not being mentioned. And we need to do a little bit more research on this, a little bit more deep dive for those who are in the media. The media is not mentioning this, but I feel like, if our own citizens have to be like shuffled from state to state to state to have an extension on their homeless support timeline, like if they only had 60 days and then you can't actually get a new job that can support your new housing, then are they just busing them to another state and then applying them for that housing? Like, is that what's going on? Like, that's kind of like red flags for me. Super red flags for me. Those of you who are good at research, those of you who are in the media, those of you who are able to blow the whistle on this thing, like, I believe that it's possible that U.S. citizens are dealing with the exact same thing. It's just not being mentioned. It's not being talked about. It's not being, people don't know, that the same things that, so if we're talking about, like, we're trying to figure out what's going on, I think it points to the way our government has decided to deal with, all of the, kind of a lump problem of, housing, eviction in general, and homelessness. They've gone into bed with made these contracts with these hotels. And so it seems to me, if you look at this process and what it takes to get into it, it seems like this is the way they want to handle your situation. They don't want you to stay in your place. They want you to get a new place. They want you to be in these hotels. So I just invite you all to do some deep dive research and just be very cautious and try to protect yourself from going into this situation at all if you can prevent it. Because I don't know how deep this thing goes with that, and what's going on. We don't know what's going on. That's what the big question mark is. Why is this a thing? Why are they going from hotel to hotel? Why do people live in hotels? Why are people living in hotels? This doesn't make sense to me. Like, I can't pay for, like, I can't even go to a hotel. Like, it's expensive. Like, how do these people with no money afford hotels? Like, how are they living there? How are they living there free? Like, it doesn't make sense. Well, I think it's because it's our country's way of dealing with this problem. And I think and if we're seeing that it has all these implications, these problems, I'm not even gonna touch on that. I'm gonna back out of that, but if you're looking on this, if you clicked on this, you probably already know. Okay. So, if this is kind of a way that they're dealing with this could become a bigger problem than we realize, because this isn't a real solution. So I encourage you to just do some research on that. And I'm going to move on to the, let's see. I'm going to move on to the 7th thing that you need to know. This is the 7th thing that you need to know. If you are wanting to get funds for supporting eviction prevention and as a U.S. citizen. So let's say in this situation, you got evicted and you ran out of time in your temporary housing hotel. Now they're gonna offer you the ability to get into a new place. You know, you may be able to bypass going into temporary housing if you're able to get a job and improve your income, but you lost your previous condo or apartment or house that you're renting. If you lost that, but you can show you can go to you might be able to avoid the temporary housing piece. But if you but again, in order to qualify for the new housing program support, where they'll pay, it varies by program that they put you in, but there's one program that will pay, like, for example, this is all in San Diego County, so you're, again, keep in mind, this is just an outline, a guideline for you as to what to expect and how to navigate the possibility for being evicted and what that could look like and what support you can get. So one of the programs they could put you in will offer you a cap of $3,500. So if you qualify and you meet the expectations, you're both working and can prove you can afford the new cost of rent, not your previous rent, your new rent, then they'll pay you $3,500. Another program that they offer is that and it has its own qualifications as to, I think it has to do with house size or something like that. Now, if you qualify for that one, then and you can prove that you can both have a job and that you can afford the new cost of rent, they might pay the full first and last month's rent. So you have to have the deposit for the first month and the last month's rent. Mind you, if you got evicted, it's going to be much more difficult for you to get a place in the first place to apply, like to qualify for a new place. So your options are going to be much more low if you have to actually go through the eviction process. So your rent is either, I don't know how people navigate that. But anyway, so they say that you can get, your first and last month's rent paid for if you can find a new place that will take you since you've been evicted. Not trying to be negative, but this is kind of weird. The way the government's dealing with this, I think, is really, really not helping people. It's really not helping people. This is just, it's sad. It's upsetting. It's oppressive. It's concerning. Concerned citizens. Hi. Okay. So you're able to get into this place and you show you can afford it. Again, obstacles might be that you're gonna have a significant rent increase, possibly from where you previously were. So you need to show that you can afford the new rent, and that's just the main thing. So if you're struggling to pay your current rent, then this is kind of like what I wanted to just give you, this outline to help you navigate the process. Of course, the costs and the amounts and the prices of everything is going to vary from city to city and state to state. But in general, I think there are a couple of things that I'd like to just point out. If you're facing this, it's going to take a very strategic movement forward. Okay, if this is something you're facing, you're gonna have to be very strategic and very you're gonna have to walk very strategically through this process. It takes a lot of effort to figure out all this information. Honestly, that's why I wanted to share it with you, because I had to ask a lot of questions to get real answers, to be honest. And the other thing is, again, my just takeaway for you, hopefully, is that you will get involved and start paying attention to more about where our funds are going as far as helping people with homelessness, with eviction prevention, because, you know, as if you've clicked on this video, you never know if it could be you and you need these help with this service. You never know if for whatever reason you lose your job with a layoff or something and then you just can't get a job again. Like, I pray for every single person that is watching this video that this never happens to you. I pray that you don't end up, I pray that you always are able to keep your job and that you're able to get a new job every single time for whatever reason, if you get laid off or anything like that. If you're dealing with sickness or anything like that, I hope you're able to get support and keep your job, do your you know, you have the FMLA, yeah. Sorry. You have your FMLA, you have, you know, that could support you from at least losing your job. You have disability, state disability you could possibly apply for, depending on your state, that you may have access to. I pray that you're able to keep your place and that you don't have to navigate this. I pray that if you do end up getting evicted, that, and you do need to go through this process, I pray that the process is very smooth for you. I pray that everything lines up, because I mean, it will take a miracle for everything to line up for you the way that they have it set up. But you can do it. If you need to do it, I pray that you're able to do it and that you get favor and everything, and that the timing lines up for you perfectly, because you'll need it. And we need those prayers, because yeah, you'll need to have that perfect timing, you know, perfect alignment with everything in order to get the money that you need to prevent yourself from getting evicted. And lastly, and I have this last thing I want to say. If you are involved in a church ministry, or anything like that, I really don't care about what denomination. If you're part of a nonprofit, if you care about homeless people, if you think that you might ever be in this situation, you know, I encourage you to please invite your leaders, invite your nonprofits to get involved before this becomes more of a problem, you know, to just say yes to being, you know, on the reference list, you know, to just get involved in knowing what's happening in with people who might face homelessness. It's very scary. It's very stressful. And on top of that, people who are dealing with homelessness are dealing with oftentimes health issues, like I was. I had a health issue and it's currently better now, but like, you know, people are dealing with health issues. They could be dealing with mental health issues. They could be dealing with all kinds of obstacles. And we need to have compassion on people. We need to have, you know, compassion on, you know, how oppressive and difficult and challenging it is, especially if you have kids or family members who you're supporting. People need support. We need more support. We need more hands on deck. So that's my call to you all. Again, I pray that this was helpful for you all. Every person who you know, was able to watch through this video, thank you very much for sitting with me through this. I pray that you will share this video with anybody and everybody you know, just because I feel like it's important for people to get an idea of what's going on. Please subscribe to my channel, as well as like, comment, and subscribe. I want to know what your experiences are, what it's been like for you. Have you been through the process already? Have you, are you thinking about, are you concerned about facing this? Are you currently going through this? I want to know what's going on with you. I would love to pray for you, for those who would like to receive prayer. But yeah, keep in touch with me, connect with me on here by leaving a comment. And I wish you all the best. And I would love to hear about the information you find out in your own research as you deep dive into this more. I trust you all to do more research, because I know that you're very smart and capable and intelligent, and you're not going to stand for this. And we're not going to sit back and just let this get out of control and not notice what's happening, because the government's been doing that a lot lately and it needs to come to an end. So I am looking forward to hearing what you guys find out, and how to continue to support people and as we move forward. So thank you very much, and like, subscribe, comment, share, all the above. God bless you all. Have a good one.